Welcome to the review of the new Kia Sonet, the Kia Sonet Facelift, the new Kia Sonet Facelift, the 2024 Kia Facelift Sonet new.
With your search terms for Google?
I think so.
Chale studio?
Yeah. So do we call this the 2024 Kia Sonet? It's not a brand new generation of the car, obviously, because the original was launched in 2020. 2024 brings us the facelift. And subsequently, the major reasons to want to get a Sonet or want to go away from one, they stay more or less the same. But this Sonet is going to make you ask one very big question that we're going to address in the middle or towards the end of this video.
Right, and before we dive into what's changed, let's do a quick summary.
Yeah.
Exterior changes, a few new exterior features.
Yeah.
The interior has more color palettes.
Yeah.
There are new features.
Yes.
There's L1 ADAS.
There is.
Which is going to be a big talking point. The engine options are the same, but the diesel now gets the option of a 6-speed manual again.
Yeah.
And what else? Am I missing something?
I think we'll get into the macro details. I think one by one we can pick out what are those finer things that, the benefit.
Do you want to start with the way it looks?
Yes. So in terms of styling, I personally feel that they have done a good job, and this is something that they've replicated with what they had done with the Kia Seltos as well. Because a facelift can be an opportunity to go better with your design or go a lot worse, and more often than not it goes the other way. But here, both with the Seltos as well as the Sonet, they've managed to make a design that looks more distinctive but isn't exactly all that polarizing. So in terms of changes, they've made the Sonet look more distinctive by, first of all, the front end you'll spot new LED headlights. It has got LED fog lights now instead of the old projector halogens. It's also got the integration of the headlight cluster, something similar to like war paint because it's extending all the way into the bumper. It's got the bigger DRL signature along with that. To the side profile, you have 4 wheel designs total, not all new. The wheel sizes still go up to 16 inches. And I like to say that Kia does a better job of choosing their wheel designs compared to Hyundai. They're sporty, but they don't go all that into the polarizing direction as such. And at the rear, you have connected LED tail lights. And yes, before you would say that the Sonet did have a connected finish, but the central portion never lit up. It was just a reflector. So on that front, it does make the car overall look more distinctive. But the basic silhouette of the Sonet and all obviously stays the same.
I want to pick on what you said about the wheels. Right? There are 4 options and not all of them are new. Yeah. So the base spec has wheel caps. The HTK models have a style wheel, style steel wheel that looks like an alloy wheel. The HTX is the only model that actually gets new design for the alloy wheel. Okay. The GTX Plus now gets the wheels that were available on the previous X line. Okay. And the X line continues to get the same alloy wheels it always had.
So the GTX and X-Line are the same wheel design basically?
Yeah, that used to be a point of distinction earlier, now it's not.
Why are you phrasing this as a bad thing? It's a good design.
It is a good design, but a new car deserves new wheels. That is what I think. If you agree with me, let me know in the comments. But overall, it is a car that still makes a statement.
It does.
I love the way it looks in its matte graphite color. That X-Line looks really good. That intense red looks really nice. And it will make a statement for sure. It looks premium on the outside and it is just as premium on the inside in the sense that it gives you that big car feel, and I don't mean this in terms of space, I mean in terms of touch and feel and just how good it makes you feel when you're inside the cabin.
Yeah, it always did that because that was a standout point with the Sonet. The choice of plastics that they went with, yes, they're hard plastics, but the finish for them are, really nice and smooth. The choice of AC vent, even I think there's a lot of intelligence with the things they've done with elements and their sizing. Yeah. The AC vents are large. The dashboard length itself is short, so you're sitting closer to the windshield. The buttons that they've gone with on the center console, they're quite large. So you do get that amplified feeling of driving an SUV when you're inside the cabin. And yes, all the touch points feel nice and premium. The leatherette upholstery's got a nice finish. There's door armrests also, you'll see leatherette upholstery on those portions. So you don't feel shortchanged, and granted, you are paying a premium price for a premium subcompact SUV. But it does translate to a great experience on the inside as well when it comes to touch and feel. That is for sure.
From a design standpoint, it might look like nothing's changed, but there's a very minor change in the way the climate control interface is designed. Earlier, it had those stubby buttons. It looked a little too busy. Now they've kind of streamlined it, right? They've moved the drive and the traction switches underneath. The seat ventilation buttons are right there. Ergonomically, it's superb. You can't really fault it. Everything feels natural. You know exactly where everything is almost instantly. From there, let's move on to space, and let's begin with the boot, right?
Yeah, the space over there has seen a marginal drop of about 7 liters,
Yeah.
392 it
To
dropped from.
385,
Yeah.
and Kia tells us it's because of 60/40,
Yeah, 60/40 split rear seat, which wasn't there before.
right? So boot more or less the same. Very comfortably, you will swallow a weekend's luggage, no
Yeah,
issues.
so one full-size suitcase for airport runs, one medium-sized suitcase, and a couple of small bags
Probably.
they can fit in. Like we saw this in the space and practicality test as
Yeah,
well.
of the
On
previous
paper
Sonets.
numbers versus real-world use, the Sonet really comes out on top.
In terms of rear seat space, Kia has made a few changes. The rear seat experience wasn't really a strong point of the Sonet to begin with, and it's not really drastically different here either. But do you want to explain to the ladies and gentlemen what changes Kia has made?
So the stuff is minor to the extent that rear seat, the base itself, the squab has been raised slightly.
Yeah, the angles.
By a couple of millimeters to give you better under-thigh support. The seat cushioning has been altered just ever so slightly, and even the front seat back, it's been scooped out just to liberate that slight bit of additional knee room. But even so, it's still not an especially roomy cabin. It's reasonable. 2 6-footers, one behind the other, totally doable. You have headroom to spare as well. But it's not the most spacious feeling cabin on the inside. And I don't think Kia's customer base or even target, like you saw in the presentation, they're looking at small families, generally people who are like, a married couple with maybe a small kid, or one or two people usually using the car with the backseat being something occasional as and when they need it. It's not constantly running with the family full up, although you can do it. And it's also not an especially wide car. 4 people on board, great. 5, it becomes a bit of a squeeze. And this is the case with both the Venue as well as the Sonet. It feels like they are slightly smaller when it comes to the width department. But that being said, with the exception of maybe the Mahindra XUV 300 and the Maruti Suzuki Brezza, none of the cars in the segment right now are great at seating 5 on board.
Correct. And if you look at the features list, you look at what the rear seat occupants get. They get a couple of Type-C chargers and a sunblind. That's pretty much it. And the armrest.
Rear AC vents as well.
Rear AC vents. That's standard fare. But if you move to the front seat, that is where Kia's throwing an absolute party. And you will not really feel the need to upgrade to a larger car if you're primarily going to be driving the car solo or have another occupant at best. Because the feature list on this car, especially, and I actually don't even want to say just on the top of the line variants, right from the mid-spec variants.
Yeah, HTK plus onwards, you've got a ready car.
It's really well loaded, but let's run through the highlights of the absolute top spec.
Okay, so you still have drive modes, traction modes, ventilated front seats. Now you have one-touch express up-down power windows for all 4 if you get the X-Line.
X-Line, yeah.
You obviously have leatherette upholstery. You have an electric sunroof. You have automatic climate control with rear AC vents. The touchscreen is 10.25 inches. That is a great interface to use. I'm not a fan of the purple theme though. I didn't like it in the car ends. I didn't like it here either. So that is one thing I'm not a fan of, but the user interface is absolutely fantastic. You do have onboard Android Auto and Apple CarPlay with the 10.25-inch touchscreen as well as the 8-inch. The catch being that the bigger touchscreen still doesn't get wireless support for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which you do get with the 8-inch touchscreen that you get with the HTK Plus, if I'm not mistaken.
HTK onwards.
And in the 10.25-inch touchscreen as well, you have a Type-C input as well as a Type-A output input. And with that, CarPlay can only be used with the Type-A point. Which seems like, why would you do that?
It is weird, and the weirdness continues. If you look at the driver's seat, it's powered.
Yeah.
But height adjust is manual.
Yeah, 4-way.
I don't understand that. You can move the seat front and back. You can change the recline of the seat back. But the most important function, according to me, is being able to adjust seat height, which has been left manual. Another addition is the 10.25-inch digital driver's display from the Seltos.
Yes.
It first debuted on the Alcazar, and it's a phenomenal display. You get multiple themes. You can either sync it to the drive mode, you can select it manually using the touchscreen, or it's got this very interesting function where you can sync it to the time
weather.
and the weather. Good for a giggle or two, I guess. Works absolutely brilliantly. gets you all the data, and the 360-degree camera feed is there.
Yes, so now you do get a surround view camera with the Sonet, and it's linked. First of all, the resolution on the thing is absolutely fantastic. And because you have the surround view camera, there are a couple of other functions that get unlocked. Like you have the blind view monitor that we had seen before. So basically, it's linked to the indicator, and it's not just on one side. If you use the right indicator, you'll see that feed on the instrument cluster. If you use the left, you'll see that also in the instrument cluster. With certain Honda models, you only have it on the passenger side.
Lane watch, it's
in
called,
the
yeah.
Tata Nexon, we see that this feature has been integrated onto the touchscreen, which occupies the entirety of the space. This is by far the best integration, both in terms of where it's displayed as well as the resolution of it itself. That aside, you can also get a driver rear view monitor with that camera feed. You can get a bird's eye view of the car even while driving. I'm not sure where exactly that would come in handy, but you can. And it also extends into the connected car tech. So if you want to use the surround view camera via your Uvo Connect app, to see where the car is located based on its surroundings, it will send you a quick snapshot of where the car is, and you can get that on your mobile phone as well. So that's a nice touch over there. And besides that, you will find that certain small additions have been included, like with the connected car tech, right? They've included the option of, we tried it, this didn't work all that well, but you have the option of opening up your app, showing a certain control or button on your car, and it will tell you what that button is.
Yeah, so the software is essentially running image recognition software. So if you do not understand what a particular button does, you can just point a camera at it and the app will tell you what it can do. Didn't really function all that well, but it does have a manual list that you can scroll through and figure out. On the features front, are we missing anything? It's got the usuals. It's got a wireless charger. We've covered ventilated seats.
Sound mode lighting that you had
And
before.
a Bose sound system.
7-speaker.
7-speaker. Sounds really, really good. Does not crack at high volumes. So that was the long and short of the feature list that the Sonet has. And equally lengthy is the powertrain options that you get.
Yeah, and Kia is continuing with its habit of spoiling you with choice.
Or confusing you with choice.
Both. So there's the 1.2 liter 4-cylinder petrol that's available only with the 5-speed manual transmission, same power output and torque output as before. You have the 1 liter 3-cylinder turbocharged petrol that's available with a 6-speed clutch pedal-less manual transmission. Basically, you can change the gears, but you don't have to press the clutch at any point.
Because there is no clutch pedal.
Yeah, and you have the option of the 7-speed twin clutch automatic as well as with that DCT. And the diesel, which is the 1.5 liter turbo diesel 4-cylinder that I think makes 115 horsepower, 250 Newton meters of torque.
The Seltos tune.
Yeah, so that comes with a 6-speed IMT, which was the only option at some point. They have reintroduced the 6-speed manual because some people did prefer that. And you also have the 6-speed torque converter automatic. And irrespective of what engine you get, it is only front wheel drive. With the diesel, one change that they have made, and this was something that happened towards the end of life of the previous model as well, is that you now have AdBlue. So certain owners, including Amay, who by the way owns a Kia Sonet diesel, you'd get warnings for the DPF getting clogged up. So somewhere in the middle of that older model's life, they introduced AdBlue as well. So that basic issue can be taken care of. It's a 12-liter tank of AdBlue. It can run for roughly 10,000 kilometers of usage as per what Kia said, which should set you back in the territory of 850 to 1,000 rupees to top up. And you know,
at Kia. Kia says it's 70 rupees per liter. Of course, you can get it for cheaper outside, but
that's your call.
That's that. I want to quickly run through which engine is for whom. And before we do that, you need to know that the 1.2 liter petrol, it's available only in the HTE, HTK and the HTK Plus. The turbo starts from the mid-spec HTK Plus. The diesel is available in all the variants in some form or the other. Right? The 1.2 liter petrol, we've experienced it in a host of Hyundai and Kia cars, right from the i20 to the Exter to the Neos, Aura, the Sonet, the Venue. All of these cars have it. The engine by itself is brilliant. It is smooth. It's not the most enthusiastic engine there is.
It's city-centric, plain and
but
simple.
it gets the job done in terms of city use. So if you're looking at an SUV primarily just to go to office, just to pick up the kids from school, just to run quick errands, and you don't foresee yourself using the vehicle for extended periods of time on the highway, I'd recommend the 1.2 liter petrol. One thing, I think the 1.2 liter petrol could have also done with the option of an automatic.
CVT, yeah.
Because they have that combination, at least the Hyundai group has that combination in the i20, or even an AMT if they wanted to keep costs down, because that is genuinely an option. because now if you want a petrol automatic, you're forced to buy the turbo petrol.
Yeah, there's a turbo premium and then a DCT premium.
Exactly.
With that.
So that can get a little expensive, but to avoid this, Kia could have considered introducing an AMT or a CVT with the 1.2. Yeah. The turbo, what do you think about it?
The turbo is basically the better all-rounder petrol option that you want. It's not as smooth to drive in everyday city traffic as the 1.2 petrol. Yeah. There is a little bit of noticeable lag. Yeah. And obviously with that engine, like we've seen in general, low displacement turbocharged engines do not respond well to heavy traffic conditions. They get kind of thirsty. Yeah. So that is one issue that you can come across with that. But otherwise, if you're going to pick that engine, I would recommend you go with the DCT as opposed to the IMT. Yeah. It's just more sophisticated to use, way more smooth. And if you're going to drive, little bit on the highway and city, it's a bit of a mix. You expect to drive the car with maybe 3 to 4 people on board more often. That would be the version to go for. And of course, it's going to be more enjoyable to drive as well. And the diesel is probably the best of the lot, with the exception of it obviously very apparently being a diesel engine. Yeah. Now Kia has made certain improvements with the NVH. You can't hear the engine as much as before, but in the case of the diesel, it is still kind of audible. But yeah, you do have great punch on offer. It's a great touring car. It'll give you great fuel efficiency. If you have high running, it'll work out to be lighter on your pocket as well. But obviously because of the rising emissions restrictions, they have had to include AdBlue, which means the diesel is going to be in the territory of 50 to 60,000 more expensive than the turbocharged petrol engine, which wasn't the case earlier.
In terms of suspension, Kia claims to have made a few minor changes.
Basically slightly stiffer in the front, slightly softer in the rear.
Slightly softer on the rear. Is it noticeable? I want to say no.
Yeah, not of the basic first impression we had.
Even if we drive back to back, I don't remember the Sonet, driving any differently than what it did on the first drive. Largely, it's a very comfortable car to be in. Yeah. It doesn't bob about. It doesn't throw you around. High-speed stability at 100, 120 is fairly acceptable. No real nasty surprises there.
It's just that on concrete roads, that one patch of concrete that we came across, if you're driving at 85 to 100, you can feel a slight amount of bounciness, specifically in the rear seat. Yeah. That's specific to concrete roads like the Mumbai-Pune Expressway. Right. So that is something to bear in mind.
Yeah, something that has multiple expansion joints over and over again. You might feel a little bit of bounce on the rear. Yeah. But like I said, no nasty surprises there.
And then we have the feature that's in place to avoid some nasty surprises if they do come across, which we did come across a fair bit in Bhopal. Lovely city, bad driving, guys. It has L1 ADAS. It's a camera-based system. Yeah. You don't have adaptive cruise control. What you do have is lane departure warning, lane keeping aid, lane centering assist, auto emergency braking, which is detection for pedestrians, cars and cyclists. Yeah. You have driver attention assist.
Yeah, driver attention warning. Yeah,
warning essentially. And you also have auto high beam assist. So basically, if you're running the high beams, it detects a car ahead. It's going to lower the down. So you basically get into an anti-dazzle mode over there. Now, we have used the system extensively enough to get reasonable first impressions. Yeah. And I'd say that, like we have seen with other Hyundais, Kias, Mahindras, Tatas, kudos to all these manufacturers to getting setups that are very India friendly. Now, we have deliberately gone out of our way with the 2 test cars to try and tempt the auto emergency braking to trigger. Yeah. There is a very distinct stage between where it's going to warn, and then intervene. Yeah. And when it did intervene, I was like, bro, what were you waiting for? Just do it. So it has been quite generous that way, but it is very India friendly.
What I like about the system is the way it's calibrated. You will almost 100% brake when you hear the warning. Yeah. You will not wait. There is no chance you will wait for the car to brake on its own unless you're trying to test it out, which we don't recommend you do.
Don't do it.
Because it's not safe for you. It's not safe for anyone else. And in the off chance it doesn't work, you don't want to be a statistic. Yeah. But auto emergency braking, the calibration is really nice. It kicks in late, but it kicks in hard enough to make sure you're safe. Yes. The warning will warn you in advance so that you brake well in time. I want to talk a little bit about the lane keep assist. Where we drove. Not a lot of lane markings, but where lane marking was absolutely clear, the car had zero issues keeping itself dead center. It could even turn. Obviously, it asks you to keep your hands on the wheel at all times, which you should. ADAS is not autonomous driving. I can't keep stressing on this enough. But a light hand on the steering wheel, it will steer itself. Absolutely no issues. But yeah, hands on the wheel, eyes on the road.
Yeah.
By and large, ADAS calibrated really well, very India friendly, and it's not just a feature that's on the brochure and that you should turn off immediately after delivery.
Correct. Now, considering all of these things, is the Kia Sonet a better car than before? Yes, it is. It ought to be. It is a more modern car, so it has to be. But at the same time, and we've had discussions with Kia about this, they are going to try and keep the price premium reasonable. They've literally cited the fact that the segment itself is very competitive in terms of its price sensitivity, so they can't go overboard. But the fact is that now a top-end Kia Sonet, where you get a lot of the halo features, is going to be costing you on road in the nearly 17 to 18 lakh in
Right.
that territory, depending
Right.
on the city.
That plus we also need to factor in the fact that the lower models too have a lot of safety features built in. So you've got 6 airbags right from the base, electronic stability control, hill assist. There's a list of 15 features that also includes a highline tire pressure monitoring system which gives you accurate pressure readouts for each and every tire.
ISOFIX is in standard.
ISOFIX isn't standard, but as someone who actively uses a baby seat, I don't see that as, not for myself, I don't see that as a deal breaker, right? It's not a deal breaker not having ISOFIX throughout, but the safety package has been beefed up across variants. So you would see why Kia would want to charge a little more for what they are offering, but their hands are kind of tied by, like you said, the segment by itself.
Yeah, because obviously when you pump in more and more features and get this premiumized, the price has to go up with it, right? And this is where my example comes in that a close friend of mine just bought a Kia Seltos, the new version, Kia Seltos HTX Plus IVT. With a little bit of bargaining and discounting, she managed to get her car for 18 lakh rupees on road. It's a well-loaded car. It has the works. There's no major miss in that particular car. And compared to the Sonet, yes, it will miss out on features like maybe it won't get ventilated seats, it won't get the surround view camera, it won't have
Get
ADAS.
ADAS, yeah.
But standalone, it is still a well-loaded car. It's a good-looking car. It's a larger car. It's a more spacious car, more practical car. So then that question becomes, do you want to go with a very loaded compact car? Or do you want to go with a slightly less but reasonably well-loaded car that is larger in size and, you know, apart from being more practical, will also give you maybe a better ego massage just by being a larger car?
Probably. So what you're saying is that the Sonet might just be sabotaging itself because of its own brilliance.
But घुमा फिरा के धंधा अपने पास आ रहा है is what Kia might just go ahead and say. So yeah, that is the major question that we were looking at, but it's obviously not just a negative, just the situation as it is. You have to tell us in the comment section, what would you do in that position? If you had 17 to 18, let's say 16 to 18 lakh to spend on road, would you go with a larger car with slightly fewer features or a fully loaded premium subcompact SUV?
Let us know in the comments. Like, share, subscribe if you agree with us. Let us know if you don't argue with us. We'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.
Bye-bye.
Wait, don't interrupt, let me speak first. I done looked up and I noticed a